So, picture this. I'm standing in a sterile, beige courtroom. The air smells like old paper and cheap coffee. And the judge, this tired-looking guy with glasses perched on the end of his nose, he looks down at my mother and my very, very pregnant sister. They've just finished this whole sob story about how they're about to be homeless. Then the judge looks up, right at me in the back row, because my mother, with tears streaming down her face, pointed me out. He says, "Ma'am, your mother says you own your own home. Is there any reason you can't take them in?" I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, and I looked right at my mother, right at my sister, and I said, clear as day, "Yes, Your Honor, there is." The last time I lived with them, they threw me out on the street with a garbage bag full of my stuff. I was 16. You could have heard a pin drop. The look on my mother's face? Oh, it was priceless. But trust me, we have to go back. Way back. 12 years back, to be exact. So rewind. I'm 16 years old. And in my family, there were 2 daughters, me and the golden child, my sister Amanda. Amanda was a year younger, blonde, popular, and could cry on command to get anything she wanted. I mean, anything. She was the princess, and I was the other one. The responsible one. The one who got decent grades, had a part-time job, and was constantly told I wasn't trying hard enough. My mom was the queen enabler. In her eyes, Amanda could do no wrong, and I couldn't do anything right. It was a classic, textbook dynamic, you know? The whole thing really kicked off when I started working at this little diner after school. I wasn't saving for a car or cool clothes. I was saving for a school-sponsored trip to Washington, D.C. I was a huge history nerd, and this trip was like my Super Bowl. It cost about $500, which was a fortune to me back then. My mom hated that I had a job. She said it was embarrassing, that it made it look like they couldn't provide for me. Which, honestly, they couldn't, not really. But it was all about appearances. I worked my butt off for months. Double shifts on weekends, bussing tables until my feet were numb. I kept all my earnings, every single dollar, in this little lockbox I kept hidden under my bed. I was so proud of myself. I counted it every single night. $450. $470. Finally, $510. I had made it. The payment was due that Friday. Thursday night, I went to bed feeling like I was on top of the world. I was finally going to get to see the Lincoln Memorial. I woke up Friday morning, bouncing off the walls. I went to get my lockbox, and my stomach just dropped to the floor. The box was there, but it felt light. I unlocked it. It was empty. Every single dollar was gone. I felt the blood drain from my face. I mean, pure, cold panic. I tore my room apart, thinking maybe I'd moved it, maybe I was losing my mind. But I knew. I knew I hadn't. I ran downstairs. My mom and Amanda were in the kitchen eating breakfast like it was any other day. I was trying so hard not to cry. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking. "My money. My trip money is gone." My mom didn't even look up from her newspaper. "Well, you probably lost it. I told you were irresponsible, trying to handle that much cash." I didn't lose it. I was starting to lose it. It was in my lockbox under my bed. Someone took it. I looked at Amanda. She was just staring into her cereal bowl, not saying a word, which was basically a confession in our house. Silence was her tell. "Are you accusing your sister?" my mom snapped, finally putting the paper down. "Don't you dare. Amanda would never do something like that. You lost it, and you're just trying to blame someone else. You need to learn to take responsibility for your actions." I begged, I pleaded. I was hysterical. But it was like talking to a brick wall. My mom shut me down completely. I had to go to school that day and tell my history teacher, Mr. Harrison, a man I respected more than anyone, that I couldn't go on the trip because I had lost the money. The humiliation was crushing. It was one of the worst days of my life. And then, the next Monday, Amanda comes home from the mall with a brand new, top-of-the-line smartphone. The kind that had just come out and cost, you guessed it, about $500. My blood went from cold to boiling in about 2 seconds. I confronted her. "Where did you get the money for that phone, Amanda?" She just shrugged. "Mom gave it to me." And right on cue, the waterworks started. "Why are you always so mean to me?" she wailed. My mom came running in, saw Amanda crying, and I immediately became the villain. I was grounded for a month for upsetting my sister. I remember just sitting in my room that night, staring at the wall and feeling this cold, hard knot form in my chest. It wasn't just about the money or the trip anymore. It was the realization that in my own family, I was completely alone. My feelings didn't matter. My hard work didn't matter. Only Amanda mattered. Things went from bad to worse over the next few months. That incident broke something in me. I stopped trying to please them. I focused on my work, on my friends, and just counted the days until I could leave. The final nail in the coffin came about a week after my 16th birthday. It was a stupid fight, something about chores. I had just gotten home from an 8-hour shift, and my mom started screaming at me because the dishwasher hadn't been emptied. It was Amanda's turn. I said as much. Amanda, of course, started crying. Said I was lying, that I was always trying to get her in trouble. And my mom just snapped. "I am so sick of your attitude," she screamed, her face red. "You think you're so grown up, with your job and your secrets. You want to be an adult so badly? Fine. Go be one." I thought she was just being dramatic. I mean, she couldn't be serious, right? Oh, but she was. She went into my room, grabbed one of those big black garbage bags, and just started shoving my clothes into it. My books, my pictures, everything. She threw it on the front lawn and pointed to the door. "Get out," she said, her voice chillingly calm. "Get out of my house." Amanda was just standing behind her, a little smirk on her face. She'd won. I was in shock. I just stood there, speechless. I looked at my mother, the woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally, and I saw nothing in her eyes. No love, no regret. Just coldness. So I left. With a garbage bag of my belongings, I walked down the street to my best friend Sarah's house. I showed up on her doorstep, a sobbing, pathetic mess. Her parents, God bless them, took me in without a second thought. They gave me their spare room, and for the next 2 years, they were more of a family to me than my own had ever been. And in those 2 years, and the 10 years that followed, did my mother or sister ever call? Did they ever text? Did they ever once reach out to see if I was okay, if I was even alive? Nope. Not a single word. It was like I had just ceased to exist. But you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. That anger, that feeling of being abandoned, it fueled me. I finished high school, working 2 jobs the whole time. I went to community college, then transferred to a state university. I got a degree in marketing. I lived on ramen and slept about 4 hours a night, but I was free. I worked my way up at a small marketing firm, saved every penny I could, and about 4 years ago, I started my own digital marketing agency. And it took off. I'm not saying I'm a millionaire, but I do well. I own a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a nice suburb. I have a great life that I built myself, from scratch, with zero help from the people who were supposed to be my safety net. So you can imagine my surprise when, about 3 months ago, my phone rings and it's a number I don't recognize. I answer, and I hear a voice I haven't heard in over a decade. "Hi honey, it's Mom." I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. She launched into this ridiculously fake, cheerful catch-up, asking how I was, telling me she missed me. I mean, the audacity was breathtaking. I just gave one-word answers, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And boy, did it drop. "So, the reason I'm calling," she said, her voice turning serious, "is that Amanda's in a little bit of a situation." A little bit of a situation turned out to be this. Amanda, now 27, was 5 months pregnant. The father was some guy she'd been dating for a few months who, surprise, surprise, wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. She had, of course, moved back in with my mom. But here was the kicker. The owner of the small house my mom had been renting for the last 15 years was selling it, and they had 60 days to get out. "We have nowhere to go," my mom said, her voice starting to crack. "And with the baby coming, honey, we need your help." I stayed silent. I knew what was coming. "You have that big, beautiful house all to yourself," she said. "There's so much room. It's only right that you let your family move in with you." I almost laughed. I almost choked. Let them move in with me? The 2 people who made me homeless at 16? The sheer, unadulterated entitlement of it all was staggering. She didn't ask. She told me. It was my duty. "Family helps family," she said. "No," I said. It was quiet, but it was firm. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. What? What did you say? I said no, I repeated, a little louder this time. That's not going to happen. And then, the explosion. All the fake sweetness vanished. She started screaming. How could I be so cruel, so selfish, so heartless? After everything she'd done for me? Was I going to let my own mother and my pregnant sister live on the street? I said, you seemed pretty okay with me living on the street when I was 16. And I hung up. That started a 2-month-long campaign of harassment. They both called me, texted me, day and night. It was a fire hose of guilt trips, insults, and demands. Amanda sent me a picture of her ultrasound with the caption, "Your nephew is going to be homeless because of you." They even got my aunt and a few cousins to call me, telling me I was tearing the family apart. A family they kicked me out of 12 years ago. I blocked their numbers. I ignored the relatives. I just focused on my life and my work. I figured they'd eventually figure something out. Then, a few weeks ago, Sarah called me. She still lives in our old town and keeps up with the gossip. You are not going to believe this, she said. Your mom and sister never moved out. The new owner filed to have them evicted. The hearing is tomorrow. I don't know why I went. Morbid curiosity, I guess. A need to see the final chapter of this disaster play out. So I drove to my old town, walked into that courthouse, and sat in the back. And that's where we came in. After my mom pointed me out and the judge asked me that question, and I dropped that truth bomb about being kicked out at 16, it was pure chaos. My mother started sputtering, she's lying. She was a rebellious teenager. We were just trying to teach her a lesson. My sister just burst into tears, which I'm sure she thought would work on the judge. It didn't. I stayed completely calm. The judge looked at me, then back at them. He'd seen it all before. He knew a manipulator when he saw one. Your Honor, I said, my voice steady. For 12 years, I worked multiple jobs to survive. I put myself through school. I built a business from nothing. I learned to be independent because they gave me no other choice. They never once called to see if I needed help, if I had food to eat, or a roof over my head. Now, they're in a tough spot, and they're not asking for help, they're demanding it. They believe they are entitled to the fruits of my labor, a life they actively tried to prevent me from having. They taught me that family doesn't mean you get to destroy someone and then show up expecting a handout. I will not be enabling them. The judge just nodded slowly. He looked at my mother and sister, whose faces were pale with shock and rage. He cleared his throat. Well, he said, it seems you are on your own. He banged his gavel. Eviction granted. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. I turned and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. I could hear my mother screaming my name, but I just kept walking. So, what happened to them? From what I heard through Sarah, it was a mess. They ended up at a women's shelter for a few weeks. Amanda had the baby, a little boy. They're now living in some tiny, government-subsidized apartment on the bad side of town. My mother had to get a job for the first time in 20 years as a cashier at a grocery store. Amanda is trying to get by on welfare. It's a hard life. The exact kind of life they threw me into all those years ago. The irony is almost poetic. Every now and then, I get a call from a number I don't recognize. I know it's them, probably trying to ask for money. I never answer. I just block the number and move on. Some people might call me cruel, but I call it justice. I built my own happy life, my own family of friends who actually love and support me. And my old family? Well, they're finally learning the lesson they tried to teach me all those years ago. So yeah, that's how I ended up letting my own family become homeless. It sounds crazy, but I've never slept better. And if you think that's wild, you should stick around. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because you will not believe the story I have about what my aunt tried to pull at my housewarming party. It's a doozy.